We'll continue our explorations of flash print by printing another hollow box. We'll start with the 20 millimeter box. I'll zoom in, click on the model so that I can center it and zoom in further. On the right hand side, I'll click duplicate and I'll add 2 more boxes to the build plate. Now what I'd like to do is line these up so they're adjoining one another. So I'll look at the build plate from the top, and I'll actually go to View Orthographic and View Top View, so I know I'm looking straight down on these. Now how will I align these? It helps to know that the center of the build plate is the 0 point. So if you imagine an XY coordinate system superimposed on this grid with 0, 0 in the middle, then you can move these boxes accordingly. So for instance, if I click on the first one and click move, I'll put it at the, let's say, minus 30 mark, and the 0 mark for Y. Now, I know that these boxes are 20 millimeters wide, and I made this one minus 30. So if I locate this one at minus 10 and 0 in the Y direction, it'll be aligned against it. And here I can say 0 for the Y and plus 10 for the X. So now these 3 boxes are aligned together. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to choose the first one and choose scale and uncheck uniform scaling, and I'm going to increase it to 30 millimeters tall. Second one I'll make 20 millimeters tall, and the third one I will keep the same dimension. Now I still at this point have 3 separate boxes or models, but if I go up to edit, select all, and right click on the model, this is the only way that you can see these options, is by right clicking on a model. And I'm going to choose binding models. Now if I click off the model and click back on and choose view, actually I'll choose move, so I can move it around, and you can see I just have a single solid model here. I'll choose move again, make sure it's on platform and centered. I'll click start slicing, choose restore defaults to make sure I'm starting from a default state. I'll go to infill, and where it says vase mode, I will choose yes, and then slice and slice preview. So you can see that I have a hollow model, but the walls of the 2 taller boxes are not being printed because it is vase mode. Right? So that's how vase mode handles a model that has uneven top surfaces. You can see it's 23 minutes to print this model, and I'm actually going to go ahead and try to print it because it should print when the nozzle reaches this point. For instance, it should move straight across to the other side, and the filament should not need bridging because it's a short distance, 20 millimeters, and it's supported on both sides. So support should not be needed here, and this should print okay. We can check the bridging by using the sliders. So we'll go down to this point here. Let's see. I want to go up to where that first line moves across. I'll zoom in, and then I'll use the bottom slider. So this is the beginning of that layer. And you can see that the nozzle moves straight across from one side to the other, and that section of filament is supported on both sides. There's a chance it might sag slightly from one point to the other, but probably not, because the nozzle is moving fairly quickly across this distance, and it's a fairly short distance, so it should be okay. And then that's the end of that layer. So we'll download the model and print it and see what we get. Here's a photograph of the finished print. You can see that indeed the bridging effect worked, and these two sections here printed perfectly fine. The rest of the model is one wall thick, so it's very thin and lightweight, and it also prints very quickly. And if we look at a close-up of the bridging areas, you can see the layer lines moving across, and it looks like that bottom layer is perfectly fine. It's not sagging at all, and it went straight across and maintained its integrity.